Hi, it's your $2 Tuesday movie critic here today, and I have another movie, Jersey Boys. It's the story of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and it was written and directed by Clint Eastwood, and of course it was brought from Broadway to the big screen. And I have to tell you that it's a good movie. Now, full disclosure, I am a huge Clint Eastwood fan. I love his movies. Since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, I've been watching his movies, like when he first started acting in them. And I like the fact that when he stopped acting as much, he went to directing movies, and oh my gosh, great job. And this movie was no exception. But I have to tell you, unless you're a big fan of Clint Eastwood movies, or you're a big fan of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, this may not be the movie for you. Just because it was, back in the day when this all happened. So I don't know how much was out in the media. Nowadays, anything a star does, if they yawn too hard, it's a news story. So I know, back in the day, they did have the tabloids then, but they weren't as big as they are now, and how much was disclosed about the band. So I don't know how much of the movie that people will be surprised about or not. It wasn't very scandalous, I have to say that first and foremost. These guys came out of New Jersey, which is public knowledge. They were, all except the writer, Bobby, they all came from Jersey in the same neighborhood, and they started to band together. Now, just a few things that were really great about the movie and that were not so great. First of all, the not so great things. I mean, for the most part, it was not an exciting movie. There were no real bad guys in the movie. Yeah, Tommy was a pretty big jerk, but he wasn't a bad guy necessarily where there was somebody that was the person that was making it hard for the band to get started. Actually, Tommy, even though he was a huge jerk, he was one of the ones, just like everybody else in the band, that protected Frankie. Because the way they depicted Frankie in this movie was that he started as a pretty naive kid. And he probably was. So they made him in the movie, and like I said, I don't know how much of this is true. They say based on a true story, and of course we know Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons was a real band. So, and all the guys, from my knowledge, and based on the movie, are still alive. So I'm guessing they got a lot of these stories from them, or people that knew them, and they put it in the movie. Now, movies, Hollywood movies especially, embellish the truth and sometimes add to it or take some things away. So who knows how much of that is. But the movie was so not boring. It was not boring, but like most Clint Eastwood movies, it was very sentimental. I think this was overly sentimental. Whereas, like I said, if you like the music which played throughout the movie, you're going to love the movie. But let me tell you this, and this is just from my own experience. Sit somewhere by yourself, or sit as far away from groups as you can. I happened to sit behind this group of 3, and this woman or man, I'm not sure, because if it was I couldn't see her face or his face, but it had like a womanly haircut, but the voice was kind of deep, sang every song, and the person was not quiet about it. In all honesty, I can kind of relate, because the songs were catchy songs, and they were older songs, and most of the people that were in the theater watching the movie were older people. I didn't see too many young ones. I didn't see any kids at all. So that's probably the audience that you'll see at this movie. But I think everyone should go see it. I don't care what age you are, you have heard Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons song. Even if you didn't know it was their song, you have heard it at least once. Because the songs are so catchy and they're so beautiful, and they're songs that people love to sing along to. People have sung them, redid them over and over again. Like My Eyes Adored You, which is my favorite Four Seasons song, has been redone quite a few times. Just like the song You're Just Too Good to Be True, I Love You Baby. that song has been redone quite a few times as well, and has been in a couple of other movies. And oh, I love that song too, but My Eyes Adore You is my favorite one. And then the song December of '63, I didn't even know that was a Frankie Valli song. So, there you go. But I'm sure everybody at least once has heard one of their songs before. If you listen to the radio, you definitely heard one before. The movie itself was very sentimental. It talks about, like most band movies, like some people say those things. You've seen them once, you've seen them all. You had the Temptations movie and things like that came out. But the thing about this movie that for me stood out from the others was that, and this is what I liked about the movie, was, like I said, there was no bad guy really in the movie. These were 4 kids that, for the most part, were trying to follow their dreams. Frankie wanted to be a singer, but he didn't know how to go about doing it. Tommy pretty much helped guide him. And even, Nikki is the one that everybody overlooks. But Nikki was the one that kept Frankie on his P's and Q's about practicing, especially at the beginning of the movie when Frankie was real green and starting out. They show how Tommy was the one that was getting the gigs, that was helping Frankie get in the forefront and see people. And Frankie was the one that depended on Tommy to not only help him with the gigs and the singing and stuff, but also help him with just street smarts. Frankie was very naive in this movie, as I said before. And then there was, I think, Nikki, who was even more important than Tommy for the most part, because he was the one that was teaching Frankie to hone his voice, to learn him how to sing and hit those notes and hold them and practice, He was the one that was doing that for Frankie. And without that, you wouldn't have the voice of Frankie Valli, which is a true gift. I mean, he has a very unique voice, like an Aretha, Pavarotti. His voice is one of those, when you hear it, you know it's his voice. And they knew that Frankie was the star of the band, and they were just there, in his limelight. But Frankie wasn't, according to the movie, Frankie wasn't ego tripping or anything like that. He knew that he needed his friends there to help him, and he also knew that he had a voice that was a gift, because everybody kept telling him. And then another great part of the movie for me was Christopher Walken, who played Jip, who was like a mob boss, in the movie. Oh my gosh, I just love Christopher Walken. Even when he plays a bad guy, I just want him to do something good, because he's always plays those characters that are, you don't know if they're good or bad until almost the end of the movie, because at any moment, he could do something sinister. But in this movie, he was the one that kind of like was a mentor to Frankie and to Tommy. But, and he was the wise sage, so to speak. And he kind of like helped the guys out when they get in a bad turn because of Tommy. I won't give it away or anything about what happens, but he helps them out a lot. And he's one of the reasons that the group kept going even when they hit really hard times. You see how they all support each other. The guys in the band, they love the music. They love, for Nikki, I think it's mostly, he just loves being a part of something. And I think for the most part, besides Jip, I think Nikki does love Frankie, and he does care for Frankie. But when it begins to be too much for him, and that's when he decides to make a choice for himself. And like I said, most of this stuff, if you were around when Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons were actually a group back in the day, then most of this stuff is full disclosure. When Frankie Valli and the group were together, when Frankie Valli just became Frankie Valli. And you may not know the reason, but they show it in the movie, the reason that it was. And it wasn't like Frankie Valli was ego tripping or anything, saying, this is me, I'm in charge. It was never that. It was a totally different reason, which totally made sense when you saw the movie from the beginning. The guys in the group, they all had their different personalities. Bobby is the guy that comes along. Bobby is the writer for the group. He's the one that's not from Jersey, like the rest of the guys. He's not Italian, like the rest of the guys either. And he pretty much is there to write. And he says it from the beginning. He wants to make music. He wants to make money. And that's why he's there. And he never tries to hide that fact. And he knows who to partner up with. This is Frankie. Yeah, I'm making this music, but I need Frankie to sing it because that's who he's writing for. And Frankie makes his words come alive. And he's so great at it. My gosh. I don't know if the guy, because I didn't do any background work on this, so I don't know if the guy that plays Frankie Valli actually is singing the songs or if he's lip syncing. You can't tell in the movie, which is great because I hate when you can tell. So I don't know if he's imitating him or not. But if he's imitating him and not lip syncing, he does an excellent job. And let's just say that. He does a really excellent job. Because I know sometimes with the movies like with Selena, that Jennifer Lopez did, she actually sang the songs. Like in June in Johnny Cash's song, movie Walk the Line, Reese Witherspoon, she sang. I'm not sure if Joaquin Phoenix sang. I won't give away the movie if you weren't alive back then when they were a band. But if you were alive then, there's no secret to it, but I won't give it away anyway, the ending and stuff. It was just a really great, the way they did the ending was like a crescendo. And then they even, this is my favorite part too, they even told how they came up with some songs that were written for it, that Bobby wrote for the band. And I like that. I love a backstory, and that was pretty cool. So, for that, you should love the movie, and I recommend it. I would definitely go back and see it again. It was a very great movie. Now, to get to my old school movies that I relate to these are, I find a correlation in between Jersey Boys and these movies. My first one is 8 Mile. Now, for those of you that don't know 8 Mile, this is a movie that starred Eminem and Mekhi Phifer. And this movie was excellent. It was one of my favorites. And the reason I relate it to Jersey Boys is the relationship between Tommy and Frankie. It's kind of like the relationship between Future and Rabbit in the movie, where Tommy pretty much takes care of Frankie. It's not always nice, and sometimes he's a jerk. Most of the times he's a jerk, but he looks after Frankie, and he makes sure that nobody messes with Frankie. And when somebody does, he takes care of it, or he finds someone, i.e. Jip, to take care of it. And this kind of like the relationship between Rabbit and Future in the movie, except Future's never a jerk to Rabbit. He just pushes them because he knows, just like Tommy knows Frankie has a gift, Future knows that Rabbit has a gift. But unlike Frankie, who's not reluctant, he wants to become famous. He doesn't know how, and he does everything that Tommy tells him to do. Rabbit, on the other hand, he does in the beginning, kind of does everything Future tells him to do, but after a while, I don't know what happens in his mindset where he's just like, this is not working out for me. I need to step away from it. And Future keeps trying to push him, and there becomes an altercation where Rabbit pretty much pushes back, and that's the first time he does that. Because before then, he was always doing everything Future told him to. And in both cases, well, especially in the case of, in 8 Mile, but Rabbit is not naive. He knows the streets. He knows what he needs to do. But he's very, very scared and very, very reluctant to get out there because, I don't know, he feels like he has so much to lose, or maybe he just doesn't want to be embarrassed. But in the end, he does it because he's like, I got nothing to lose anymore. Whereas in Frankie, he's never reluctant to get out there. He wants to get out there. He's just afraid he doesn't know what he's doing. And he doesn't. And that's where Tommy comes in and the rest of the guys. Now, so that's my correlation there. And I think it's a good correlation. I think the relationships are very, very similar. Now, my other correlation collection, my other movie is A Bronx Tale. Now, this movie stars Chaz Palminteri, who is right there, and Robert De Niro right there, and they're fighting for this kid right here. So C and Sonny have this relationship in the movie, just like the relationship between Jip and Frankie. Now, Jip in the movie, like I said before, is Christopher Walken, and Jip is the mob boss, and he sees something in Frankie, and he loves Frankie, and he especially loves Frankie's voice and the music he does. You know, there's a scene in the movie where they show how much Jip loves Frankie's voice. It brings him to tears. And it's a beautiful song, and Frankie Valli, the voice is beautiful, there's no doubt, it's a gift. And he tells him throughout the movie, you've got a gift. And he tells, again, just like Tommy does, only Jip's word holds more ground. If you mess with Frankie, then you mess with me. And you don't want to do that. So Frankie is pretty much untouchable. Just like in the movie where Sonny looks out for C. And he tells the boys, like there's even one scene in the movie, in A Bronx Tale, which is one of my favorite movies, too. It's where Sonny pretty much saves C's life because some of his friends are trying to get him to do something stupid, and he's naive too. He thinks these are my friends, so whatever they're doing, I'm doing, because we look out for each other. And that's another thing that's similar to Jersey Boys, is the whole, even though The Bronx Tale takes place in New York, Bronx, New York, hence the title, that whole Italian theme where we stick together because we're a family. Same thing. C looks out for his friends look out for him. The only thing is, C's friends are taking him down a dangerous road, and Sonny sees it. So he pretty much tells the boys, you stay away from C. If I catch you around C again, it's all of you. You know, and that tells them, you don't even think about being near him. And he pretty much saves C's life. He doesn't really realize it at the time, but he does. And all throughout the movie, that's what he's doing. Sonny sees something special in C. He sees that he can be somebody and do something with his life, as long as he stays away from his idiot friends. Just like Jip sees something special in Frankie, and he tells him, I see something special in you, and that's why he tries to keep him away from the idiots that are trying to lead him down the wrong path, or tells him, I'm gonna help you. And he even helps him out somewhere down later on in the movie, to the point where they're almost destroyed because of what happens, but Jip comes in and he helps them out. You probably heard the song, the Four Seasons sing, which I didn't know this was a Four Seasons song either, Walk Like a Man, where Frankie kind of like does. At that point, I think Jip helps him to start walking like a man. Before that, Frankie was letting everybody take care of him. With Sonny in A Bronx Tale, he's looking out for C, and C trusts Sonny. C trusts Sonny in some points more than he trusts his own father, because he questions his father's ways, but he never questions Sonny. And, it's both. All three are great movies. And like I said, the Italian theme is going on in The Bronx Tale the same way in Jersey Boys. And there's this one scene in the movie, of the Jersey Boys movie, where Nicky says, he talks about the loyalty amongst them, where Tommy, which most of the movie, Tommy messes up to the point where it almost gets them all in trouble. And Nicky says, if you think Frankie gives up on Tommy because of this, well then you're obviously not from Jersey. And I think it not only goes towards the Jersey theme, but the whole Italian family thing too. And it's great movies. And also in the movie of the Four Seasons, another good thing about this is it's kind of like narrated, but it's narrated in a cool way, where Tommy, he stays in character, but instead of being in the scene, he becomes the narrator of the scene, and he talks about what's going on. And then somewhere through that movie, Nicky takes over, and he starts narrating. And the same thing, he's in the scene, and he's always remains his character, but sometimes he comes out of the scene to narrate something, to give you a little bit more insight on what's going on. really, really cool. I thought that was brilliant. I've seen it done in plays before, but I've never seen it done in a movie. So it was pretty cool. That was the movie. I hope you go see it. Even if you're not a Four Seasons fan, if you love good music, if you love music, you're gonna love this. This is like some of the best music you ever hear. And they even go into when the band was put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 1990. Great movie. To recap, if you like good music, if you like great music, if you like Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, if you're from Jersey, and if you like Clint Eastwood movies, you will need to go see this movie because it's one of the best. Not my favorite Clint Eastwood movie, but definitely one of the best. Alright, so there you have it for this review. If you have some movies that you think better correlate, please let me know. Until next time, take care.